Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our video with a story about a petty Christmas revenge. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Christmas Lights Revenge. Every year, a man in my neighborhood goes all out with his Christmas decorations. I'm talking bright, flashing lights all over his yard and lights that spell out Noel on his roof. Don't get me wrong, it's very nice to see someone so festive, but all these Christmas lights bring about 100 people each night to gawk. They aren't polite. They park their cars on both sides of the road, then stand in the middle of the road to watch lights, ensuring that no one can drive home. When it first started happening this season, it happens every year, but never quite this bad, I asked the owner of the house if he could shut the lights off around 8 so that those, like myself, who need to get home will be able to. He said that he would shut them off earlier since it gets dark over here pretty early. I thought all would be well, but he didn't hold to his word. Several times this season, I've had to get out of my car and ask them to clear the road because they're deaf to the sound of a car engine and blind to flashing high beams. I've called the non-emergency police number, but they said no law was being violated, so there was nothing they could do. I'm positive there's a law against blocking roads. Whatever. I can't do anything to force the police to come out. I put up with the gawkers all month. I had a bad night last night and wasn't in too good of a mood, and the gawkers were the last straw for me, so I got out of my car and unplugged every single light. Happy holidays! Dear Santa, for Christmas, OP would like a main battle tank. Nothing says get the F out of my way more than over 50 metric tons of steel and a 155mm cannon. And our second story. Fine, I'll move back out. 2 years ago, I decided to look for a new place to live. Just wanted somewhere else. Management was crap. Nothing ever got fixed. Neighbors were jerks. Had I known what would have happened, however, I'd have dealt with that with a grand smile on my face. Cue time to move. I'm looking for places. My aunt says, we have a spare room, you can move in with us. So I ask her how much rent she wants to charge me. Seeing if it's too much, I'll just look for my own apartment elsewhere. They wanted $150 a month. To be honest, that was a deal of a lifetime. There's a saying that if something seems too good to be true, it is. And boy, I should have remembered that. A few days later, I was moved in. Just a bed, table, TV, Wii, and 2 tablets, as well as all my clothes, seeing as I didn't own much at the time. I paid them that month's rent and the next, so I wouldn't need to do it next month. There was no written agreement. There was no lease or whatever. My room is set up. Took hours to clean because they're kids. They have 7. 3 are moved out by this point. Used it as a playroom, toys, and general crap. After being there for 2 days, my uncle told me, since you're living here now too, you need to help out around the house. I asked him what he'd like me to do, and the list was staggering. They wanted me to do the dishes, sweep the floors, watch the kids when they were gone, cook for the kids, clean up after the kids, do the laundry, every single night. They expected me to be a live-in male nanny. This was outrageous. But I decided to just suck it up and hopefully get them to agree to far less later on, seeing as $150 a month was golden. It lasted all of 5 days. Their kids destroyed my entire room. Despite having a lock, they just broke it. The youngest 2 daughters jumped on my small, boxy TV like a trampoline because they're bored, and neither of their parents did anything about it. Refused to punish them. Refused to replace my items that got destroyed, which also included my Wii, which they smashed because I told them they couldn't play it, and my 2 tablets. I talked to my aunt about moving out and how I'd like to get my stuff replaced. She laughed and told me no. So I went to my uncle to ask about it. He told me they wouldn't pay a red cent, and that if I didn't like living here near the kids, then maybe I should move out. So 2 days later I did. I had almost nothing left except my clothes and some photos that held sentimental value to me. The rest of my crap was in a storage unit. Since I only got 1 room, why bring my furniture? I left in the middle of the night, and to replace the stuff their kids destroyed and that they refused to replace, I went into their shed and took my uncle's hunting gear, a crossbow, arrows, pretty much all his gear. He didn't own guns, and sold it on eBay, which just about covered the cost of replacing all my crap, including the bed I left behind because one of their kids decided it'd be funny to pee in it. They didn't call me until 2 days later when they realized the house was a total mess, floors dirty, dishes piled high in the sink, trash not taken out, etc. My aunt was absolutely furious. She screamed at me on the phone that I needed to come back. We had a deal. I'm not going to lie, I lost my patience with these people, so I screamed back. You people told me if I didn't like living there to move out, so I did. Sucks to be you, B. Maybe clean your own GD house and watch your own kids. Before ending the call and turning my phone off to ignore the amount of spam calls and texts I was getting. My uncle goes hunting every year or so, no idea why, so they still haven't found out I sold his hunting gear. Actually, I was surprised I found anything in there worth the value to sell to replace my crap. You don't owe them anything because they're kin. Nothing at all. You tried to meet them halfway, and they spit in your face. Broom them out of your life and move on. And our last story. My sister destroys her abuser. This is a story about my older sister. My sister is a super kind and smart person. In high school, she was a typical nerd. In her class, there were a group of popular girls that made it their life job to make my sister's life miserable. Every time I talked to her about it, I could tell in her eyes it hurt her, but she just told me she was okay and she'll keep ignoring them. One day, Regina and her minions spread a rumor about my sister being a slut. My sister confronted Regina, and all she said was, "You're a loser, and losers deserve a crappy life. Deal with it." My sister went on to graduate as the class valedictorian and went to Cambridge in the UK for her undergraduate and graduated magna cum laude. Edit, or the equivalent of top of the class, and then went to Harvard Law. She worked for a few years at some big law firm, but eventually started her own practice back in the area we grew up in with her now husband. One day, she gets a mother and her daughter into her office and asks about suing the landlord of the apartment complex the mother was living in. They said that the premises have not been upkept, has hazardous living conditions, and repairs are rarely done, and when they are done, they're not done well. For example, when a water pipe burst, the plumber didn't replace any of the old pipes and instead just patched with adhesives like duct tape and Gorilla Tape, because to fully repair the ordeal would take a few days, so the management company just patched it up. My sister goes on to find out that the management company is owned by none other than Regina's family, and that the complex had been falling apart ever since Regina's father retired, and Regina decided to take over, despite not knowing how to run a company. Over the course of a few months, my sister found out that it was not just this one complex, but 3 out of the 4 complexes the company managed were in terrible condition, and my sister's firm was able to get about 60% of the residents to file a class action lawsuit. The list of things that were messed up in these places was astronomical. The fire sprinkler system didn't work, a huge backlog of repairs needed to be done in the apartments, signs of mold were even sprouting in certain areas with more moisture and rodent infestation. The only thing they didn't have were termites. On top of that, there were reports of multiple break-ins in the complexes as the security contractors were no longer working for them. Everything was documented with pictures, police reports, and sworn witness statements from current and previous tenants, contractors previously hired, previous employees, and expert witnesses. The case mounted against Regina's company was basically ironclad. My sister never forgot that rumor, and if there was ever an opportune moment for her to get back at Regina, it'd be now. So my sister made it her mission to get anything and everything out of Regina for wronging these people. Initially, Regina's attorneys wanted to settle out of court, but since Regina was stubborn and not too bright, she didn't want to settle and decided to fight back. As the defendant, Regina's claim was that all of the problems were caused by the plaintiffs and they were trying to fraud her. Case eventually went to trial, despite Regina's attorney wanting to settle out of court. On the first day of court, my sister was nervous about Regina recognizing her. However, it seemed like Regina didn't remember her at all. Throughout the trial, my sister's firm produced expert witness after expert witness about how all the damage on the property was caused by negligence and any repairs that were done were not done properly. Former employees testified how Regina cut costs by reducing critical maintenance staff and expecting the leftover staff to take care of everything. When they couldn't keep up with the backlog, she fired the people and hired unqualified replacements. The only complex that was maintained well was the one she lived in, and she spared no expense to remodel her unit with new appliances and luxuries, and also had a bunch of her friends live there too, either discounted heavily or free. At the end of the trial, Regina was found guilty on all counts and ordered to fix everything or the complexes will be shut down. The judge also ordered that no one was allowed to live there while the repairs were being made, so she had to pay for all the current tenants' relocation to hotels and the repairs for an entire month. There were over 300 residents. The cost for everything would cost Regina over $2 million, assuming they don't find more things wrong and need to extend the repairs. If she just settled with the plaintiffs in the beginning, it would have cost her less than $500K. Regina broke down outside the courthouse and was screaming at her attorneys. When she caught sight of my sister, she ran over and started screaming obscenities at her. My sister put her hand up to quiet her and said to her face, "You're a loser, and losers deserve a crappy life. Deal with it," and walked away. Regina got bright red for a moment, then the light bulb finally went off as she realized who my sister is. The same nerd girl she bullied has now destroyed her life. Edit, told to her by colleagues as they witnessed it. Aftermath, Regina's dad had zero idea of what was going on. After he retired, he moved out of the country to live abroad, and by the time he found out the company he built was falling apart, it was a bit too late. He eventually came back to fire Regina and reestablished the company and hired the right people to run the company. Revenge is sweet when you're the one putting the bully in their proper place in life. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.